Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody, I'm Carlo Garganese and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast special preview show of the 2024-25 Serie A season. I'm joined as always by Nima Tavallaey, who is wearing some an Inter top there. I couldn't find the Juve one, so I guess I'm in a Lecce shirt, can we say, today? The new Serie A season, of course, it kicks off on the Saturday, August the 17th. Inter are the reigning champions. Parma, Como and Venezia are the newly promoted teams. This will be, I can promise you, the most in-depth preview you will listen to or watch on the new Serie A season. And for those of you that are listening to this podcast, you can also watch this show in full on our YouTube page. A lot of you complain that you don't see us enough, so here we are. For those of you that do want to receive all of our content that we do each week, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. We're going to be doing lots of exciting content during the new Serie A season. Our usual free Monday show, of course, our weekly Q&A with patrons, our midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more. So go to patreon.com/TIFP for that. Lots to look forward to. But the first thing I want to ask you, Nima, is just how excited are you for the new Serie A season? Because it seems like a long time away, what with the transfer market and, of course, Euro 2024, which was a disaster for Italy. How excited are you?
Well, I'm very excited. I'm really looking forward to it. It's been one of the more boring transfer summers that I can remember, not just for Inter, but overall in Serie A. I think it's been a bit sluggish. I mean, Juve have done lots of work, but for everyone else, it's been a bit sluggish, hasn't it? It's been a bit so-and-so, things aren't getting done as quickly. And even for Juve, things aren't getting done as quickly, which I'm sure we're going to get into. Antonio Conte's already angry, but I mean, you get your money back. You don't get any odds on that. You just get your money back if you would have bet on that. He's always angry. He's never happy, is he? But generally, I'd say it's been rather slow summer for the Italian clubs, and as far as Inter is concerned, it's been the most boring mercato. I've done this since 2012, and I can't remember a transfer window more boring and more dead for Inter than ever. But speaking of the shirt that you said I'm wearing, it's one of our patrons actually. She has a company called Tavallaey FC. She's got her own print shop, and her name is J.R. Bell. I had the Euro preview one that we did. I was wearing another shirt that she made which was an homage to 1968 Italy team, and this one is a Inter one of her Inter ones. She does all sorts. She does all sorts of clubs and not just Italian clubs. And she's a patron of ours and has been for a long time. So I thought I'd give her a bit of a shout out for that. But no, to answer your question, I'm really, really excited, super excited. I can't wait to get started. There's so many things that need answering. There's so many different projects, so many projects rebooting, so many new coaches. So there's lots and lots and lots to answer.
Yeah, and we will get into all of that. But for me, I think after the disappointment of Euro 2024, you just want to forget about it. And the only way you can do that is with football. And there's been that long wait since Italy went out of the Euros, there's so much to look forward to. Lots of new coaches, lots of new projects. The drama off the pitch, like even when the football is not that exciting, and it will be exciting, but even when the football is not like it was in the 80s, in the 1990s, when Serie A was the most beautiful and the best league in the world. There's always so many great storylines between the clubs, between the coaches, the presidents, the volcanic presidents, the arguments in the media, which I know you love, Nima, and the soap operas. I mean, there isn't a league like Serie A. And of course, the competitive nature, I think, is what also makes it great. Because if there's one bad thing about club football today, is that it's, most of the leagues are so predictable. Certainly when it comes to title races. I mean, you look at, Man City, what's it, four 4 titles in a row.
Yeah, and we still see them as. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we still see them. You can't tell me Man City aren't favourites to win the EPL.
No,
It's them or Arsenal.
PSG. How many titles have they won in the last 10 years?
And they're going to win another one this year.
Bayern Munich. This is only the first time in what 11
12
years,
yeah,
12 years or whatever it is. They didn't win the title. And then Spain. Okay, it's either Real Madrid or Barcelona. So
and it's completely going to be over Real Madrid because they're building a super team.
Yeah. Whereas in Italy, no one has retained the title since Juventus in 2020. 5 different winners. Okay, Inter won it twice, but every year it was a different winner for 5 years in a row. And there's, although Inter are the favourites, we'll come into that. Of course, there's every possibility that it won't be into this season. So that I think is what makes this Serie A exciting and why people will be watching it. It's the unknown factor there. But Absolutely. Let's now, Nima, move through the teams, the big teams really, and let's look at the probable 11s for the new season, and then we can discuss the strengths and the weaknesses of each team. And bear in mind that everybody that's watching this, that we're recording this on August the 6th. And there's 3 weeks, over 3 weeks to go until the transfer window closes. So, a number of these teams will change between now and the end of the window, and these teams will change also. There's still over a week and a half to go until the season starts. So some of these teams will change slightly when the new season kicks off as well. So just bear that in mind. But let's start off with the champions, with your team, Inter. Flashing up on the screen now should be Inter's probable starting 11 for the new season. It's the same team as last season, basically, isn't it? What's your take on this Inter team?
Well, it's excuse me. Yes, it is the same Inter team, and the problem last season for Inter was the depth or lack thereof, especially in attack. Well, they have kind of addressed that because Alexis Sanchez out, Mehdi Taremi in is a massive improvement. And in midfield as well, Zielinski's come in, Klaassen and Sensi have left. So there is improvement there. They've got rid of Audero and brought in Josep Martinez. So they've improved the depth. There's no doubt about that. But it is pretty much the same team, but it's going to be something like 50, 60 games into our 5 competitions. So it's lots of players are going to get time to play. And Inter needed to improve the depth, and they kind of have, even though, of course, I still think that the defense is a question mark because I don't think I saw a decline last season of Francesco Acerbi. I think Stefan de Vrij has not been the same player since the season he won the Serie A Defender of the Year. I do think that there is cause for concern, but they don't seem concerned. Marotta and those guys are looking at this going, no, we've got enough to win the league this season and maybe do something in the Champions League. I'm not as convinced that is the right decision. I would have preferred to have been a bit more proactive. But then again, you also have Jan Bisek, who was really impressive last season and has been very impressive during the preseason. And so they can probably, they're probably thinking that he'll probably take more steps and as well. But other than that, look, I think they have the Serie A MVP, they have the Serie A Capocannoniere, they have a goalkeeper who had the most clean sheets, they had the best defense. Now they also have the best squad in terms of depth, if you ask me, and they have continuity. Simone Inzaghi extended by a year. He will continue to play, so he will continue to stay. But I think he's going to develop how Inter play. I think we're going to see Inzaghi want to move forward to a 3-4-2-1 from a 3-5-2. I think he understands that if you don't, every team in the league has studied Inter, even though Inter can play in very many different ways. Last season, they definitely showed that they can attack and hurt you in very, very many different ways. But I think he wants to positionally shift to work towards a 3-4-2-1, which also explains the Federico Chiesa rumors arriving on a free transfer next summer, because I think that's where they would want to have him join.
So who will be the one? Who will be the one in attack? Will it be Thuram or will it be Lautaro?
No, Lautaro's going to be. He's the captain. He's going to be
the one.
He's the number one starter. Everybody knows that.
But who will be if it's a 3-4-2-1? Who will be the striker, the lone striker? It will be Lautaro.
If it's a 3, I think it's going to be Lautaro. The thing with Inzaghi's system is that it's very fluid. It depends on who's occupying that space when the ball comes. It can sometimes be Thuram. It can sometimes be Taremi. It can sometimes be Lautaro. It can if Chiesa joins, it can even be him once. Because again, Inzaghi's system is very fluid. It's about creating numerical advantages in triangles and being able to capitalize on that when faced against the opposition's goal. So I think it depends, but I'd say if I was to choose one player that probably find himself in that position more often than not, I'd probably go with Lautaro. If they go towards that 3-4-2-1, which I'm kind of expecting them to do, not completely shift, but work towards it, and then next season make the shift completely. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I think Inter definitely start as a strong favourites. I think you've said it all. They're the strongest and they're the most settled team. Almost every other team has changed coach, and Inter have got that continuity, like you said. They've got the deepest and the most experienced squad. They still have the best defence, although that could be, like you say, the one area that, if things don't go right, if some of their players like Acerbi, like Dovbyk, Darmian as well, I would add to that, start to decline even more, then that could be an issue. Mkhitaryan as well in midfield. So there are a few aging players, and then as always, an injury to Lautaro Martinez will always take a lot away from Inter, even if I think they have definitely strengthened their depth in attack with Taremi. So I think Inter Inter look the team to beat for sure. But let's move on to Milan now. So we can see their 11 there on the screen. I mean, there will be some definite changes to this by the time of the start of the season, and also certainly by the end of the window. Milan are still going to sign a central midfielder for sure. Fofana is the favourite to be there. He will come in at centre midfield, probably for Benacer if he joins. And then Milan are looking for another striker. They're looking for a right back as well. Emerson Royale, they're in advanced negotiations at the time of recording for him, so he would probably go to right back. So those will be the changes for Milan. But I think for Milan, the key thing for Milan is that they've kept their star players. They're 3 stars: Leao, Magnon, and Theo Hernandez. It looks almost certain that they are going to stay. They've added an experienced winner in attack, Morata, who can handle the pressure of replacing someone like Giroud. There is still lots of firepower in attack. They've got some interesting young players. Pavlovic, young, talented young defender. We'll have to see how he does. Fofana, if he joins. So those are the positives. From the negative point of view, though, for Milan, I think not as many guarantees as Inter. Certainly when it comes to consistency, that has been a problem for Milan. Lack of consistency over the last couple of years. The coach is a question mark. I mean, in pre-season so far, they've looked really, really good, but it's pre-season. The question mark over, is Fonseca a winner? Until he wins something for a big team, that question mark will always be there. And also, it's time for Rafael Leao to step up as a consistent world-class star, not just moments, not just stretches of 1 month here, 2 months there. I include the season that Milan won it. He got hot for about 3 months in that season, led them to the Scudetto. But actually, over the course of that whole season, he wasn't consistently great. It's time for Leao. There's no more excuses now. It's time for Leao to step up and have a consistently great season if Milan are going to make that step up. And the other question mark, I think, is will Morata bring enough goals? And also the defence. The defence was a big problem under Pioli. They were very leaky. Emerson Royale, is he that enough of an upgrade over Calabria? Is he an upgrade at all? Which was a weak area. And Pavlovic, will he be an upgrade on Malik Thiaw? And can they then play as a unit? So I think Milan are, again, just like last season, I think we said the same thing last season. It's going to be really, really exciting to see what Milan do this season. It's quite hard to predict, actually.
It's very hard to predict. I mean, if we're talking about Alvaro Morata, I think what he does, he will score about 10, 15 goals. But other than that, I think he's been brought in to put Pulisic and, above all, Leao in more goal-scoring positions, and for them to then be able to convert more. I think Milan will be much more fluid in attack when Giroud isn't there. With Morata there, he's a much more dynamic player. He's a very, very intelligent player. He's very good at making those around him better. So I expect to see Leao more centralized, in the sense that I expect him to find himself more in goal-scoring positions this season, Rafael Leao, than we saw last season. Because there were, for large stretches of last season, Stefano Pioli was using Rafael Leao in the build-up phase. I don't think we're going to see that as much this time around. I think we're going to see a Rafael Leao that's going to be much more focused on scoring. And I think it's time for him to do that, because I think, if you look at this Milan squad and who's going to be the leader in attack, well, it is Rafael Leao. He is the talisman. He is their big shining diamond. He is the, as during the Berlusconi era, they would call him the gold letter player. That's who Rafael Leao is at this Milan, and that's what I think Fonseca is going to try to get him to be. Pulisic, I think, had a great first season. I think he's going to build on that and get the goals he's got. In terms of the Mercato, I'm a little bit question mark around Pavlovic, because I know he's good in the air, and he's a physical player, but I don't think he's a mean SOB. Yeah, he's a mean SOB, because Milan's defense have been a little bit too good, a little bit too much good boys. They need a mean son of a bitch in there. And the problem with Pavlovic is that he's not very quick. And if they're going to play with a high line, there's question marks there. But I do think the most positive thing is they've been able to keep the big stars. I don't think, in my opinion, that Emerson Royal is that much. Of course, it's an upgrade on Calabria. There's no doubt about that. But the question is how much. I'm not sure.
I'm not even sure about that, to be honest. having watched him in the Premier League for Tottenham, if it's the Tottenham Emerson Royal, then I don't think he's even an upgrade on Calabria. If it's the Emerson Royal from before Tottenham, maybe. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the defense.
I think the Serie A. I think the Serie A suits Emerson Royal more than the Premier League does. I think, I think he'll enjoy his football more in Italy than he did in the Premier League. But overall, I think there is question marks around that, as you so well alluded to and explained. I don't think I don't see Milan this season as a Scudetto contender. I don't.
Really?
I really don't.
Okay.
No, I don't. I don't think they're quite there. I don't think they're quite there. I mean, again, it's the 8th or 6th of August. I mean, my final predictions, I always make them after the Mercato closes.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's the same for me as well. It depends. Do they get these transfers done? They're still in negotiations with Fofana and the others. Listen, I think if things come together for Milan, which they didn't last season, I think they can be a Scudetto challenger. But it's one of those that it is quite difficult to predict. They have looked very good in pre-season. I have to be honest. They've beaten some big teams in pre-season, and it's also going to be. I'm also very excited, and this is probably the thing I'm most excited about with Fonseca, is that he has shown that he is good with young players, and I really am hoping and praying that he gives some of these youngsters a chance. Liberali, who will come on to after, has looked really good in pre-season, and then of course there's Kamada and there's some of the other Milan Futuro players. This is the first season for the Milan under-23 team playing in Serie A. It'll be interesting to see if Fonseca can give some of these guys a chance, because they've got so many talented young teenagers, Milan, who you just don't know. They could take Milan up a level. Who knows? So
exactly,
Milan,
there is
I'm
an
very
unknown
excited
factor.
to see Milan. I'm excited.
So am I. There's an unknown factor for sure with Milan. But I mean, I as I said, I want to reserve my final judgment until after the Mercato.
Yeah, for sure. Talking of the unknown, let's move on to Juventus now. They are the team that have revolutionised the most in so many different ways over the summer market, and they will revolutionise even more between now and the window. Now, the formation, the probable 11 that you see on the screen right now is going to change dramatically between now. That's the sirens going off. The EDL have started the attack in Bedford. Due for tomorrow night. It's supposed to be Wednesday, 8 p.m. They're supposed to.
What they've announced the time when they go into attack.
Yeah, that's the information that's coming from my sources over here, but we'll see. Yes, the Juventus team is. I mean, as you can see, so many changes. There's already five new members of the starting 11 on that screen there. This team will change massively. Juventus will sign another centre back. Todibo, it looks like it's going to be there in advanced negotiations right now to sign him. So he will come as centre back alongside Bremer. And then Danilo will probably move over to right back, because the way that Motta, it seems he wants to play, is he wants to build up with a 3, and it'll probably be Danilo, Bremer, and maybe Todibo in the build-up phase. We'll see. But Danilo will probably go right, and then left, I would imagine, will be Cambiasso. Then in the centre of midfield, it probably will stay with Douglas Luiz and Thuram, but the trequartisti, the 3 attacking midfielders behind the 1, that definitely won't be Chiesa and Fagioli. I mean, Chiesa has been told very clearly he has no future at the club. He has to leave, so it won't be him, and it won't be Fagioli there. So it'll be Coop Miners will be the central attacking midfielder if that deal gets done, but we'll see if that deal can be closed, especially with the Scamacca injury. If that complicates things, we'll see there. And then Juventus will also sign at least 1, I would say very likely 2 wingers, in which case the right winger will definitely change. And then the left winger, depending on his seniority, might even be the first choice over Yildiz as well. We'll have to see, or certainly a rotation player. So Juventus, it's very hard. I mean, right now, what we can say for certain about Juventus is they started the transfer market on fire, bringing in a lot of players very early, selling a lot of players as well. But then it ground to a halt, and it's been like that for a few weeks now. And we can see clearly from this team that Juventus are very incomplete. They are very short in attack. And if Juventus go into the season like this, then they're going to struggle. But this isn't going to be a team that goes into the new season. Juventus are going to be bringing in new players because they have to. So lots still to do, Juventus. They're still a work in progress. But what we can say is that there's new hope and there's new optimism after many years of hopelessness, really, among the Juventus fans. Max Allegri has been replaced by Thiago Motta, who, is one of the best young up-and-coming coaches in not just in Italy, in Europe. I mean, what he did with Bologna was fantastic. But it's not Juventus fans can't expect this Juventus team to suddenly win overnight. There's too many changes. There's so many changes. So many new players in the team. They're changing style of play dramatically. They're going from a team that's defends deep and counterattacks to a team that wants to control possession and dominate the ball and be progressive and press. I mean, that's a huge change around for having played for 3 years under Allegri to suddenly change like that. There's a lot of a lack of experience in this team. If you look, certainly in the Champions League, I think it's going to be quite difficult for Juventus in the Champions League. I mean, look at the number of matches that these players have played in the Champions League, and there's still gaps and there's still question marks in the team. So I think that top 4 is probably realistic, but without limits, because Juventus should always be without limits. It's Juventus; they're the most successful team in Italy, and at the end of the day, they still have some top players. I mean, I think Douglas Luiz will be a top signing. Coop Miners, if he comes in, will be a fantastic signing. And then again, like Milan, it depends how the pieces of the jigsaw come into place. How certain players do. Does Vlahovic suddenly realise his potential? I mean, he's looked bad in pre-season. He's looked just as bad in pre-season as he has in the last 2 seasons. So he needs to step up if Juventus are going to have an excellent season. Defence needs to improve. Can Bremer play in a back 4? Can he play, with the ball, which is what Motta requires. There's lots of question marks. It's such a revolution. So again, like Milan, it's going to be fascinating to see how Juventus do this season, Nima.
Juventus are an even bigger question mark because I don't, it's August 6th and Juventus are missing several key positions in their squad. If Chiesa leaves, they need to sign a winger. They're going to need a backup striker. Kefren Thuram, I think, is a good signing. Douglas Luiz for sure, but Koopmeiners has not been signed. McKennie has not been sold. I mean, there's lots of question marks around this Juve side, and if we're talking about preseason, Juventus have not looked good in preseason. They've looked actually abhorrent in preseason. No, I mean, I don't draw any conclusions from that at all because I think preseason for me, I don't even really bother with. I watch with one eye on all teams' preseasons because I think that it doesn't really say anything because they're really training hard. It's preseason training. Players are tired. It's just about it's their time to build themselves up really. So I'm not too bothered about that, to be honest. But I do think there's so many question marks that I just don't see. I don't see Juve realistically challenging for the Scudetto this season. I think top 4 is where they should be. And like you said, Bremer in a back 4 has never looked good. Can he do it? Is Motta the man to make him do it? Well, that would be great for Brazil too, the national team, because then they can use him in that system because so far he's had problems getting into that team or squad because of the fact that he can only play in a back 3. So it's there's lots of question marks, but it is a revolution. It's the first year, it's year 0 for Juve after so many years of essentially trying to wobble and stay afloat. Now it's a completely new slate. The new ownership, the new directors have their own guy, and they're going to need a couple of transfer windows to get going. But it's been interesting to see, but there's still lots of work to do for Giuntoli, or Juntoli, as the Juve meme. The Juve
which I have now seen now, and it is as good as you described it.
But yeah, no, so good.
Absolutely. Listen, a lot on the success of Juventus season will depend on what Juntoli can do between now and the end of the summer. I mean, you can see clearly that the Juventus need wingers. Where are the goals going to come from in this team without bringing in attacking talent? And we have to see. I mean, there's a lot of names on that winger shortlist. There's Nico Gonzalez of Fiorentina. There's Sancho, Man United. There's Galeno, Conceição of Porto. There was Adeyemi. I don't think that will happen now. And of course there's Koopmeiners as well, because Juventus need an attacking central midfielder to play. They haven't got one. I mean, they've got Miretti, maybe, but I mean, yeah, you can't go with Miretti, and Fagioli is clearly not a attacking central midfielder, number 10. So there's a lot of work for Giuntoli to do to make these things work for Juventus. Let's move on to Atalanta. Until a couple of days ago, I was really excited for Atalanta, and I was thinking, what am I going to say about Atalanta on this show? And I was going to say that they could definitely. In fact, I was going to say we shouldn't be calling them a dark horse for the Scudetto anymore. We should be calling them as a potential challenger for the Scudetto. And then, of course, we saw what happened. Gianluca Scamacca tore his ACL, which we'll come on to. I want to discuss that later on in the show. And, Scalvini is already going to miss probably 2/3 of the season with an ACL. Koopmeiners, I mean, do they sell him now? That's a big question mark. But you're talking about 2 or 3 key pillars of the team just completely taken out, and all of a sudden you're thinking, wow. I mean, the start, the probable 11 is up there. I mean, Scamacca's name is still on there, I believe, and so is Koopmeiners. But you take those 2 out as well, and all of a sudden that team is looking so much less formidable, and it's just gutting, isn't it? It's just ahead of the new season. It really just takes away all the oxygen going into the new campaign, doesn't it?
No, it does. It really literally just flattens all the positivity around Atalanta. That as in which I did with in my Atalanta Mercato deep dive with Fabio Gennari. He said, the S word is forbidden at Atalanta, but now it's not. Now it doesn't matter if it's forbidden or not because it's absolutely not happening. If they lose Coupe Miners with Scamacca and Scalvini gone, I think they're gonna have to focus on staying in the top four. That becomes difficult now. Zaniolo's a huge question mark. I think they can mitigate for Scamacca somewhat with De Ketelaere. Because De Ketelaere can play in that hole and they can play Lookman up front. El Bilal Torre, I think, is going to have a good season if he stays. So they can mitigate for that. But if Coupe Miners goes, well, what the hell do they do? I mean, he is so important. So yeah, I think it's a shame because we were I think we were in for potentially one of those historic, fairy tale things.
That's what frustrates me the most, is because, as I said in my introduction, at the top, why am I looking forward to the Serie A season? Because there's been so many different winners, but we're also getting these lovely stories. Inter didn't, when they won their first Scudetto, they hadn't won since 2010. Milan hadn't won since 2011. Napoli hadn't won since 1990 with Maradona. These teams that haven't been winning for years are suddenly, challenging and winning it. And Atalanta, yes, you still wouldn't expect them to win it, but they could do. They could do. They've got the players. I mean, look at the teams that Atalanta beat to win the Europa League last season. They beat all big Champions League teams. They beat Liverpool at Anfield. They beat Leverkusen, probably the best domestic team in Europe, certainly in league terms last season. They beat Marseille. They got to the final of the Coppa Italia as well. In Serie A, they were beating big teams in Serie A. They beat Juventus. They beat other top sides. So they've shown that they can battle it out with the big teams. And then this happens, and it's gutting. It is gutting. I still think that there'll be a top team because they're a system team, and whoever comes into the system, that's the strength of Gasperini. But you can't lose this many top players and expect to be able to replace them. We'll have to see now. How does Zaniolo do, for example? There's more pressure on him now because before he was like, okay, he's a squad player. He could come in and maybe he can slowly improve, and maybe in the new year start to show his best. Now they actually more reliant on him. They need him to start showing. And then who do they replace Scamacca with? I mean, they're going to have to probably go out and sign a striker. Well, who is it they sign? So there's more question marks now about Atalanta, and that's a shame. That's a shame. The Real Madrid game also, which I know is a big match for them.
It's huge. As Fabio Gennari said in the interview I did with him, it's a historic game for them. Like they are absolutely the entire city of Bergamo is like they can't wait for that. So this really does harm things, and it's also a shame because Scamacca was finally, had a good season, was having a good preseason. This is going to be his season of where he's going to establish himself, and then this happens, and this entire season's a write-off for both him and Scalvini. And I wonder if that's not it for on Scamacca's career at the highest level.
We've seen it unfortunately with Chiesa and Zaniolo. So they destroyed their top level careers. Let's be honest. I mean, we can pray and hope that Gasperini can produce another miracle, and we can pray and hope that Chiesa pulls it out. But I mean, if we're thinking with our heads and what we've seen, they're not. And what usually happens with ACL, most of these ACL victims. I mean, it's just so sad. And he's in the peak of his career now. He's coming into the peak, and it's just awful. And this has destroyed the Italy national team more than anyone else, because we're at a stage where we struggle to produce players. We don't produce. don't have that abundance of players like we did, you know. And when we get top talents like Chiesa, like Zaniolo, when he burst onto the scene with those, you know, in the Champions League as a teenager, and he was just blew everyone away. We don't get players like this, you know. And then when they come along, they tear their ACLs, and then we lose them. And this has happened so many times. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not a coincidence. You know, it's not a coincidence. And people can put their heads in the sand and say, "Oh, it's just bad luck," or you can't, you know, you can't train or protect yourself against ACLs. You can.
No, you can't train yourself against that's kind of yes. No, you can't. You know, when the accidents happen. The issue is, I don't think this is a Serie A issue. I think this is a complicated issue that we see all over Europe. I think there's a combination of factors here. I think when it comes from an Italian point of view, I think it's got to do with, well, the pitches that and the state, you know, that Italy has fallen behind on things that we see, infrastructure and research and science, sports science, which we know they've fallen behind on to the Premier League. But it's also the number of games, and I think that is something that, you know, football is not you know, it's a special kind of game, and I think when you put that much, it's 90 minutes plus extra time, added time, 50, 60, 70 games a season. At some point, you know, these guys, how much you train them still.
I totally agree.
It's made of flesh and bone. I mean,
there's no doubt about that. You know, when your muscles are weak, your core is weak, when you've got fatigue, when you're tired, that is a risk factor with ACLs. You know, that is a way to protect yourself. Of course, some of it is just down to physiologically, and a lot of it is down to the pitches, and that's where Italian pitches and training pitches are not up to standard, and that doesn't help either, especially in pre-season when the pitches are dry. And there's no give in the ground, you know, that raises the chances, increases the chances. But tiredness, fatigue, and the number of games, but also the physical. This is where Italy comes in. The physical training. There's too much emphasis, and I've spoken to a lot of coaches in Italy. Too much emphasis on physical training, running players into the ground to get them fit. Puts too much pressure, and that added with a number of games, there's just no rest, and you know, so and I'm not just talking about ACLs, I'm talking also about injuries in general. You know, look at the number of injuries Italy had going into the Euros. You know, they weren't all ACLs. There was lots of other injuries, muscle injuries. How many players? Italy were the most affected team, probably along with Holland, with injuries in the Euros. You know, and that's also down to the way that we do things. So I think, you know, we really do need to look into that from our side. We can't just blame it just on, you know.
No, I think it's a combination.
I think it's a combination
of many things all at once. But I do think that the number, that is one I'm looking at. Like at the end of the day, I think it just becomes inhuman because everyone wants to compare with ice hockey. It's a completely different kind of sport and movement. Same with basketball. You move differently. Football is, you know, the way, the kind of pressure and that you put on your muscles is different in these games. Football is both endurance and speed and explosivity. These other sports are different, and they don't play for 90 minutes like that. Effective,
and as we said,
you know,
Nima, as we said, I think I said on a recent show that, you know, basically since the summer of 2019, basically we've had for 5 years. Players, European players, have not had a proper rest since 2020 was COVID. So we had the summer season, didn't we? During the season, then we quickly started the new season. Then then we had the Euros that was pushed back. So the summer of 2021 there was no rest. We had the Euros. And in 2022 there was a summer break, but there was the mid-season World Cup, which elongated that season. Both it started earlier and it finished later. There was no rest in 2022, and then you know, and then again, obviously the 2024 Euros, and then you have next year we have this ridiculous Club World Cup which means then you've got the World Cup in 2026. So how do you think the players are going to be at that 2026 World Cup? I mean, it's going to be we saw how bad the football was in this Euros, which I think a lot of it is down to
fatigue.
What we discussed.
Fatigue.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is down to fatigue. Yeah.
No,
it doesn't help, does it?
No, I think I think they need to make the squads bigger, and I think they need to allow for all the top league teams to have bigger squads, and they
need to play less games. So that's the number one. Let's get to the cause before we get to the
well, they're not going to. They're not going to decrease the games because the Champions League is now longer. So what I'm saying is, fine. You need 30 squad players. Then you need rosters of 26 to 30 squad. You can't go around on 23, 24 players playing 60, 70 games. It's just not possible. It is not possible. It's just not possible. So you're gonna have to have bigger squads. That is the solution. And in order to do that, you're gonna need more money. And if you need more money, that means that you need financial fair play rules in place that take into consideration of that. It's as simple as that.
It's a mess. Let's move on though. Let's move on to Napoli. Talking about managers who likes to run his players into the ground.
Yeah.
So Napoli again, fascinating to see what Napoli, new coach, of course, with Antonio Conte, which is the biggest story. So the probable 11 is up on your screen there, but there will still be changes. The big one, of course, is Victor Osimhen, who we expect to leave and be replaced by Conte's son, as Thomas Tuchel once said.
Well, he said Lukaku. Well, he said it. He said, "There's your daddy" to Lukaku and watching.
Which Lukaku didn't take very well. We're expecting Osimhen to be replaced by Lukaku, but of course it's reliant on Napoli actually being able to sell Osimhen, finding a buyer who's prepared to pay what is now 100 million that Napoli are asking for, and they're really struggling to find someone who's prepared to pay even close to what. I mean, originally they wanted the 130 million clause paid, so it's not a guarantee that Osimhen is. It would not surprise me if at the start of the season Osimhen is still the Napoli striker, and it's going to go down to closer to the end of the window. That situation is a bit of a mess, and that is holding up the rest of Napoli's transfer market. I mean, Alessandro Buongiorno has come in defence. Spinazzola has come in the left wing back. Of course, Conte will play his 3-5-2 or 3-4-2-1 formation, or 3-4-3. We'll have to see how exactly it plays out. He will sign another centre midfielder, that's for sure. Maybe another centre back as well. Maybe another attacker. We'll have to see. So there's still a lot of work to do for Napoli. That team that you've seen there on the screen is going to change a lot. But the key, Nima, is going to be really the Conte factor, isn't it? Because we've seen it before with Antonio Conte. Napoli, they're not in Europe, playing once a week. Conte is the best coach in the world, isn't he?
Well, he's won the league twice in a row playing once a week. The last two times he did it with Juve and Chelsea, he won the league from disastrous previous seasons.
And with Inter, they went out before Christmas, didn't they? And then he won the league when they weren't in Europe.
When they were playing once a week. Yeah, exactly. That was half a season of him playing once a week.
Yeah.
But because he is a genius, a tactical genius, in the sense that he prepares meticulously and almost with a sense of manically for games. The problem is you can't do that for 3 games a week. You can't prepare like that for 3 games a week. But he is the best coach in the world by far when there's only 1 game a week, and he's proven that time and time again. So the problem for him is, or as we've seen already, he's grumbling over Lukaku not being done and the winger not being done, and there's rumors of him threatening to resign and so on and so forth. Look, I think this needs to, De Laurentiis or whoever's in charge needs to handle this. I would not at this point exclude Antonio Conte taking his bags and walking out the door before the first game is played. Literally would not do that. I would not exclude that at all. If he will not go into that season without his number 1 striker and an annoyed Osimhen who doesn't want to stay, and without having a winger where he's forced to play Politano, which he doesn't want to do, he's not going to accept that. And I think Napoli need to be careful here. They're playing with fire. They are playing with fire here. But if he stays, if he gets his Lukaku, if Osimhen is sold and he gets another winger to play there, look, they are in the title race. I think there's no doubt about that. I think the sheer fact of the system coach that he is, the preparation, the defense being the biggest problem, which he has resolved with Buongiorno, I think we all know that if Conte stays there, Buongiorno is going to be mentioned amongst the best defenders in the world because that's what Conte does. And Anguissa is going to be unbelievable. Lobotka, question mark, but I think he'll be able to mitigate for that with other players. Spinazzola is an intelligent signing. It suits Conte's system. And he will also have, in terms of system, he's got also someone who I think is going to really enjoy playing for Antonio Conte is Pasquale Mazzocchi. I think he's going to absolutely love playing for Antonio Conte. He's from Naples as well, so that's going to mean a lot for him. I think he's going to have a good season under Conte. So no, look, there's lots of things speaking for Napoli, and it is the system, it's Kvara, it's Conte, but I still maintain, and he's got Raspadori there as well, I still maintain that if Antonio Conte plays a 3-5-2, I think he will probably win the Serie A this season. If he plays a 3-4-2-1, I think with Lobotka, there are some question marks there. But I do think they're going to be in a title race if Conte stays regardless.
I think the guarantees with Conte is he'll sort out that defence, which was horrendous last season. I think Buongiorno should be a guarantee because he's very much a Conte player. Although I do think still Napoli need another centre back, which I think they will get before the end of the market. Otherwise, Conte probably will pack his bags. Kvaratskhelia, for me, is the most talented player in the league. I mean, we can say that maybe Lautaro is the best player in the league, but I think Kvaratskhelia, there isn't a more gifted player than Kvaratskhelia. Maybe Rafael Leao might argue that case, but I mean, the talent he has, what he can do, is incredible. We'll see if Conte can bring that out from him. Kvara's been more of a winger. I do think he has the game, though, to adapt to play in a more central role, to be kind of the Son. What Conte did with Son, maybe be that kind of player that can come in centrally as well. Conte will have them fitter and hungrier than any other team in the league. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, look, Napoli still clearly have gaps in this team and this squad, especially the one that we're looking at that's going to start the season without new signings. There's no doubt about that. Lobotka, I think there's a question mark. Is he a Conte player? There's definitely a question mark there because he's not the kind of player that's going to cover every blade. He's going to have that intensity. He's fantastic short game, passing game, controlling game. But is he the Conte type of player? I don't know. On paper, yeah, I still think there's gaps there. And just because you're playing one game in a week, which is a massive advantage, it doesn't mean that automatically eliminates the weaknesses that you have in your team and squad. And the best example of that is Juventus under Allegri last season. I remember at the beginning of the season, a lot of people saying, but Juventus, they're only playing one game a week. That automatically makes them title challenges. Well,
yeah, but there's a difference.
You have to look at the quality of the players at their disposal as well.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. But Juventus were in a title race until January. They were literally 1 point. I think they were 1 point ahead of Inter at some point, well into the season. But there's a difference between Allegri and Conte. Conte is a different kettle of fish completely. And Conte has won leagues playing once a week. We're taking over a Juve that was a Juve that hadn't won anything for a long time. So, and he develops players. So there's a little bit of difference between Allegri and Conte there.
Yeah, no, I agree there. Let's move on to Roma now. The probable 11 will be coming up on your screen. Roma have been one of the most active teams in Serie A this summer transfer window, and they've made a couple of really, really big coups in Artem Dovbyk, who was the top scorer of La Liga with Girona last season, and of course Matthias Sule, who I think, if we're talking it financially, is an incredible signing. I mean, I have no doubt Juventus undersold him. 26 million plus 2 million in bonuses and potentially another 2 million, but in hard to earn ways. I mean, I think that's incredible business for Roma. Dovbyk, a lot of money. He needs to score the goals to guarantee that. And then Lefebvre as well. So I think, Roma, as we said in a recent show, it's good to see them able to spend money to show ambition again, which they haven't been able to do for a few years because they've been so restricted by financial fair play and by UEFA. I still think they're outsiders for the top four right now. I still think that there are question marks over how they fit Dybala, Sule, Dovbyk in the same team. Like, Dybala's not really a winger. Is it two behind one? Where does Dybala play? That I think is an interesting one. So that's a question mark. They might not even buy another winger. It would not surprise me if they buy.
Well, they will buy another winger. I mean, when by the time this is out, we will have already published our Roma Mercato deep dive with Il Romanista and Radio Romanista's Andrea Di Carlo, where we spoke about. He mentions very clearly that they want another winger and they are out to get another winger. Probably another central midfielder too, because they feel that they lack a midfielder that has more physical presence there. So they're not really done, and they need a backup striker as well because they're looking to offload Tammy Abraham, of course, for the right price. So they've done quite a lot of work, but there's still a bit of work to do for Roma. I do think that with what's happened to Atalanta, again, we're at 6th of August, depends on where we are at the end of the Mercato, but I think this opens up things a bit for Roma to maybe even challenge for 4th spot with all the insecurities around the other teams. I think for me, it's like the top 6. I mean, they are in a league of their own, but you can seriously, credibly make an argument for any of them for 3 of them to win the league, and for the other 3 to finish in the top 4 as well. So it's very, very, very difficult to say anything definitive right now. But with
the defense definitely still is weak. I think for me, it's weak. The right back, they need a new right back. Celik, for sure. Mancini and Dika at centre back. It's not going to scare attackers. Angelino, good player, but again, I think that defense has could concede goals, especially when Paredes is protecting it. And although Paredes was very, very good
he was very good last season.
Very good.
Yeah, last season.
But again, he's not the kind of player that will help protect a leaky weak defense. He's more the other way, good at controlling the game, dictating the game, but not.
And that's exactly what Andrea said. That's exactly what Andrea said, that you need to have a midfielder with physical presence who can break up the game and win balls and provide defensive stability.
Let's move to the other side of Rome, Lazio. Let's look at their starting 11. A lot of change at Lazio this summer, and they've got a new manager as well, of course, Marco Baroni, and they've lost Immobile, they've lost Luis Alberto, having already lost. They lost Felipe Anderson as well, having already lost Sergej Milinkovic-Savic last year. So, I mean, the whole nucleus of the team that's done really well for the last 4 or 5 years and went close to winning the Scudetto in the COVID season. I mean, it's gone now. It's the end of an era, and it's a new era now for Napoli, for Lazio, sorry. And I think it's going to be a transitional season for Lazio. Would you agree with that?
I think 100%. I think 7th is where I have them. I think it's a transitional season. I think Baroni is a good coach. He worked a miracle at Hellas last season. He did brilliantly with Lecce. I think he's a solid coach. I think this is. I think he'll get them 7th, and that's where we can kind of keep them. It's a little bit of a year 0 reboot for them. I like some of their signings that they bought. Castrovilli is a player I've really, really rated. Had some horrible injury seasons. Noslin, great, did really well. Tijani Noslin at Hellas last season. But I just, when I look at that attack, I feel like I'm missing. I think everything looks good and decent. I just feel like I'm lacking bite up front. Ciro Immobile has left Lazio. Who is going to score the goals? And I think that's going to be something that haunts Lazio for the next couple of seasons, finding the goal scorer.
Yeah. Noslin I like. I think he was a big reason why Verona stayed up. So, he could push on. Nuno Tavares, Traoré. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name because I'm going to picture. Do you want to help me?
Who?
Right
winger.
Chauna.
Oh, Chauna from Salernitana.
Chauna. I got it.
Yeah, you got it right. Okay. Yeah,
I got it. Yeah, Castrovilli. The guy. I loved him when he burst onto the scene. He's a ballerina, literally a ballerina.
Yeah, beautiful.
And but his body's broken. So.
Another Italian player that I loved that got completely ruined by ridiculous injuries.
There you go, Castrovilli. Yeah,
it's annoying me.
Yeah. Fiorentina. No, Bologna. Let's do Bologna first. So Bologna, fairy tale season. One of the great achievements in Serie A of the 21st century to get into the Champions League, having not even been in Europe this 21st century. What a job Thiago Motta did. But they've lost all the key players, key people of that historic season. They've lost their coach, Motta. They've lost Joshua Zirkzee, their striker's gone to Man United. They've lost Ricardo Calafiori's gone to Arsenal. And they've lost Lewis Ferguson for most of the season, certainly the first 2/3 of the season, due to another ACL. So, again, it's going to be so difficult. They've got a new manager, Vincenzo Italiano, which I think, for a team of Bologna's level, they've done well, I think, to get someone like Italiano. But when you look at the team, I still think they've got lots of good players, lots of very serviceable players that will do a job. They work hard for the team. And I certainly don't think that Bologna are going to collapse. I don't think they're going to be awful. I think they'll still be top half. But, I think it's when you add the Champions League football as well, the extra games they're going to have to play, it's going to be very, very hard for them to get even close to what they achieved last season, isn't it?
Oh, they're not going to be anywhere near the top 5. They're not going to be in a European spot at all. This is a team that screams mid-table mediocrity. I think the attack, Vincenzo Italiano is exactly where he should be. Bologna is where he should be. I think they could probably surprise one or two, maybe cause an upset in the Champions League and somehow get through to the knockout stages, but that's where it'll end. I don't see them finishing higher than 8th, 9th, 10th, somewhere there. It's a very, very mediocre team. I think that, the players that they've brought in are nowhere near at the level of the ones that have left. But there are players. If Jesper Karlsson stays, he was a huge signing for them when they signed him. He didn't really gel under Motta. If they can get him going, they have a potential big player there that they can sell, because he's got lots of talent. But other than that, I'm not too impressed by Emil Holm as a right back. I've never really seen, even when he played in Gothenburg, which is my team in here in Sweden, I wasn't really that too impressed with him either. I'm not too impressed with Cambiaghi, Dalinga. Jury's still out on Dalinga, but no, look, we're talking 8, 9, 10 here.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll be top half. Because I think that some of the teams in the bottom half of the table are pretty weak. But I think that's what you're looking at. 8th, 9th, 10th, maybe 7th, maybe at the very, very most, if things go right for them and things go wrong for some of the other teams. But yeah, they're definitely not going to challenge anywhere near the Champions League places. Let's move on to Fiorentina now. The probable 11 there is on your screen. So they have a new coach as well. Italiano has left, as we said, and Raffaele Palladino has come in from Monza. He's going to go change to a back 3 now. So they're going to go to a 3-4-2-1 from the back 4 that Italiano played. So another back 3. That is that is a feature of Serie A which I'm not against the back three. I know you like to someone like make fun of me and paint it as if I'm totally against back three, as if I think that's anti-football. I'm not against back three, but I think there's too many managers in Italy that play back threes, and I don't think that is always the best preparation for playing in Europe, and certainly for the national team as well. As we've seen, we've suffered a lot because defenders can't play in a back four, or players are not used to playing in a back four. But anyway, back three they'll go to. Moise Kean will be the striker. I mean, Fiorentina have had some terrible strikers in recent years who have let them down. Certainly, I think let Italiano down. Stopped Italiano from maybe doing more during his time. But he's come in now, so we'll see if a player that didn't score a single goal all season last season can improve things there. Judging by that viral video of him trying to shoot at a giant darts board with kids. Let's hope he does better than that. Pongracic is all coming into defence. Now, the big one is, before the end of the market, it looks like Nico Gonzalez is probably going to leave Juventus and Atalanta, but maybe Juventus are the favourites as we're recording. But it looks like he's going to leave. But it looks like Gudmundsson might come in. So that is interesting, because I think you've got Gudmundsson, you've got Moise Kean, who's still a handful. Whether he's scoring or not, he's a handful. He's got pace. He's physical. There might be more goals in this Fiorentina team this season, but there's still clear gaps, especially if we look at that central midfield. They need to get in another centre midfielder, don't they, Nima? There's no doubt about that. And the defence still looks a little bit leaky. So Fiorentina are one of these teams that it's hard to see them being too ambitious this season. 7th place at most they can aim for.
Yeah, Palladino coming in is interesting. I'm really happy that he has come in there. I think Italiano was way out of his depth. I'm happy to see Fabiano Parisi getting a chance. I hope Michael Coyote is given a chance as well. Otherwise, they should sell him, because I think when it comes to talent, I know we're going to talk about that, but I have 2 Fiorentina players as my potential breakout players this season. Beltran, Moise Kean is no goal scorer. Nico Gonzalez leaving and Gudmundsson coming in is an interesting one. I think Gudmundsson as a starter, Fiorentina is his level. I don't think Gudmundsson is good enough to start for an Inter, Milan, or Juve. I think he's a rotation player at those clubs at most. But at Fiorentina, he starts, and I think he'll be serviceable. But Nico Gonzalez leaving, if Nico Gonzalez goes to Juve, that is a huge coup by Juve. And again, I hate to be repetitious, but I remember the day that Theo Rocco Benito took over Fiorentina, and obviously he was a Juventino fan growing up. He's born in Italy. But when he took over, he said, I'm not going to...
Clearly still is.
Theo Rocco Comisa said, I'm not going to do another Roberto Baggio. I'm not going to sell anything to Juve. And he ended up selling Chiesa, Vlahovic, and now potentially Nico Gonzalez to Juve. So he did Baggio... Well, together, maybe all those 3 players are half of Baggio in terms of quality. But he's done a Baggio times 3 when it comes to selling star players to Juve. Which is really, really interesting. And he, that is something that in the city of Florence is borderline unforgivable. So it's going to be, if they start stumbling, people are going to remind him of that. Florence is a very, very special city. It's a very proud city. And they're already not too happy with some of the things he's done. So we'll see. But I do think Palladino, like you said, 6th, 7th, somewhere there is where I have them. I'm really excited to see what Palladino can do with this side.
Yeah, it's a big season for Palladino as well. We'll come to the coaches in a bit. Finally, before we do our predictions, I just want to look at Como's team, because they are the new team on the block, and a very, very interesting story, because they have the richest owners in all of Serie A, and they've spent a lot of money this transfer market. They brought in a lot of players, a lot of established players, big name players. Many of them past their best. Pepe Reina's 41, Alberto Moreno is 30, Belotti, Andrea Belotti is over 30. Rafael Varane is one hell of a coup, really. I mean, he's still only 31, actually. You think he's
not
older
too
than
old.
that. Mazzitelli from Frosinone, and a few other names as well. They've spent a lot of money. What do we expect from Como, both this season and also longer term? Is this a flash in the pan? Is this? What do you think? Is this something that's just going to fizzle out a bit like Monza maybe sort of did?
Yeah, that's exactly what I expect them to do. To fizzle out a bit like Monza. I expect them to finish 12, 13, somewhere there. I think they're good enough to finish to survive in the Serie A, and especially Ali Yassim is an interesting player who they signed. In terms of the rest of them are, like you said, it's experience in order to stay up. But Ali Yassim is an interesting signing for real. Other than that, there's talk of, Stefano Sensi coming in. There's talk of Nicolosi Caviglia. They're essentially bringing in name players, and they've got Cesc Fabregas, who's never really been a coach. He's just a big name in football, and we'll see what he can do and what they can do. But one thing that is certain is that they're not gonna, it's a small place. It's a beautiful place. It's not one of Italy's more crazy cities in terms of curva and pressure from the fans. We don't even know if they're going to play in their own home stadium at the time of recording, because of the Giuseppe Sinigaglia doesn't fulfill Serie A requirements. I don't expect them to do much more than stay up and then, I don't know, kind of fizzle out. But I do want to raise a little finger for Ali Yassin, who is an interesting player.
Okay, watch out for him then. Right, what we're going to do now is we're going to do our predictions for the new Serie A season. We're going to go through one by one. We'll start off with the Scudetto winners, Nima. So I am going to go for Inter, as explained before. I think they have the best team, the best squad, the deepest and the most experienced squad, the most continuity. And I think that there's no doubt that they are the favourites to win the Scudetto. Nima?
It's really difficult. Look, I'm not going to say who's going to win it, but I think if Antonio Conte stays, that means that Antonio Conte is going to get what he wants. And if Antonio Conte get what he wants, I think it's a 2-horse race between Inter and Napoli. I couldn't tell you who will win. I mean, it's like I said, it's a month left, but yeah, somewhere there. Inter Napoli if Antonio Conte stays, because that means he will have gotten what he wants. And I don't see anyone running away with it with like 15, 16, 17, 19 points, clear of the second spot. I think it's going to be much tighter than that. But I think it's, as things stand today on the 6th of August, I think it's Inter and Napoli.
Yeah, of course, this comes with the caveat that there's still 3 weeks to go in the transfer window. A lot can change. So don't post this like in April next year and say, "Oh, look what Carlo and Nima said."
Don't. No. We're going to go, when the mercato closes. That's when I'll come with my full list of like we both will, with our full list of who'll do what and what not.
Okay, Champions League qualifiers. So let's go. When I say Champions League qualifiers, obviously 5 qualified last season. Let's say top 4.
Top 4
teams that are guaranteed to be in the Champions League. So I'm going to go for, and this is not in any order necessarily, I'm going to go for Inter, Milan, Juventus, and Napoli. I originally thought that I couldn't call it like 4 from the 5, including Atalanta. But with what's happened with Scamacca now, and if Koopmeiners leaves as well, I just think that could be the difference between Atalanta getting in or out of the Champions League places. So I'm going for those 4.
I have the exact same 4, and I've got nothing more to add. It is going to be those 4 that end in that finish top 4. That's how I see it. Maybe Roma can threaten Napoli or Milan for 5th, but that's
if there's one of those 4 that maybe don't get in, it would be Juventus on the back of having a disastrous end to the
Juve or Napoli.
Because I think if this Juventus team that we see right now on August the 6th plays the Serie A season, I actually think they probably won't get in the top 4 with this current squad, current team they have. But I expect a lot of players to come in between now and the market that makes them a definite top 4 team. So let's see what happens. Europa League and Conference League qualifiers. Again, we're basing this on the idea that 1st to 4th is Champions League, 5th and 6th will get Europa League, because I'm going to assume that the Coppa Italia winners are a team that's in the Champions League or Europa League, and then 7th gets Conference League. So let's assume 5th and 6th Europa League, 7th Conference League. I am going to say Atalanta and Roma for 5th and 6th. Atalanta 5th, Roma 6th. And then I think that's definite. I'm pretty confident that the top 6 will be Inter, Milan, Juventus, Napoli, Roma, and Atalanta. I'm almost certain of that. Then the question is, who comes 7th? And I think that is really, really hard to call. I think there's Lazio, there's Fiorentina, there's Bologna, maybe. And then, is there a surprise? Could there be a surprise team? Like Bologna were a surprise last season, even though they ended up finishing higher. Is there a Torino, a Monza, even a Como? I would say maybe even a Genoa. Genoa have looked pretty good in pre-season. Obviously, they might lose Goodmanson, which would be a very, very big blow for them. So I wouldn't rule out a surprise team coming 7th, because I don't think that Lazio, Fiorentina, or Bologna are strong enough that we can guarantee one of them will finish 7th. So 5th and 6th, I'm certain. 7th, impossible to call right now on August the 6th.
Yeah, no, I think the top 6 are exactly that. Inter, Milan, Juve, Napoli, Roma, Atalanta, not in that order, but those are the top 6. Fiorentina, Lazio, just outside the top 6. That's my top 8. I couldn't tell you in which order they're all going to finish, but my top 4 are Inter, Milan, Juve, Napoli, and then Roma, Atalanta for Europa League, and then Lazio, Fiorentina.
You still think Lazio will do it? Okay, that's
no. I think Lazio, Fiorentina for Conference League 7
could be out of those 2. Yeah. I mean, I think that 7th place may get a low points tally this season. So that's the reason why I think a surprise team could nick it. Maybe, you had, it was the same last season, wasn't it? I mean, we had Napoli in 10th, and you had Torino with the 3rd lowest goal tally in the league that were nearly got into Europe last season. So I mean, obviously we hope that our teams do well in Europe again, and then we get more places in Europe. I don't think that will be the case because of the Champions League this season, but we'll see. Relegation, though, I know this is your favourite topic, Nima. No one loves a relegation race more than you. Last season it was Frosinone, Sassuolo, and Salernitana who were relegated to Serie B, who maybe you wouldn't have had down for relegation at the start of the season, and then they all went down. So it would be quite fascinating to see. But the newly promoted teams are Parma, Como, and Venezia. So first of all, I guess we should speak very quickly about the promoted teams. What do we expect from them? I mean, Venezia 3rd in Serie B last season with 10 losses. Their signings haven't really done much. They've got Di Francesco as coach. For that reason, I have them as a team to go down. Como, as we said, they've spent so much, and I think they will continue to spend, and they will spend loads in January if they're in trouble as well. So I think Como will stay up. And Parma, they've looked good in pre-season. They hammered Atalanta, and they seem to be well. They haven't signed many players. They seem to be very well drilled and very, very fluid team that understand everyone. So I think they could potentially stay up as well, maybe Parma. But I would say the teams right now, if I had to pick 3 to go down, I would say Venezia, for the reason I said. Empoli have lost a lot of players this summer. And like last season, I look at their attack, Piazzi, Esposito, Caputo. I think they've just signed to Colombo. Yeah. Even with Colombo, who I hope breaks out, because I think the talent is there. But I asked myself, where is Paul Pogba? I asked myself, where are the goals coming from? Where is Paul Pogba in all of this?
Where's Paul Pogba in all of this?
But where are the goals coming from Empoli? I asked myself, and D'Aversa as coach as well. So I think Venezia, Empoli, and then I'm looking at maybe Cagliari, maybe Lecce, maybe. Although Lecce, I trust in Corvino to find the players to keep them up. So I trust in Lecce. Verona, maybe. Tough to call.
It's very tough to call, and that's why the relegation battle is so beautiful. But I think Empoli, Venezia, Hellas, Cagliari are the main candidates. Parma, I think, will stay up. Lecce, I think, should be able to stay up. Udinese, I'm a little bit concerned about, but honestly, I am really worried about Torino. This has been a disastrous summer, in my opinion, for Torino. This has been absolutely terrible. They haven't.
The defense is completely new defense.
It's a completely new defense. They have Paolo Vanoli in charge, which makes absolutely no sense to me. There's so much going on. They've lost their entire defense. Buongiorno is a huge loss for them. The attack was a problem before. I'm not entirely sure Che Adams is going to be the answer to their prayers.
He's not going to revolutionize their attack, is he? Che.
No, Che Adams isn't going to revolutionize their defense. Their attack. I'm scared of they can find themselves in a situation like Sassuolo did last season. Bellanova's there. There's talk of him. There's been links of him leaving, going to Roma, but I think he'll end up staying. Zapata and Sanabria don't exactly fill me with confidence up front. Valentino Lazaro, I never liked.
I would say on Torino, I agree that they've gone quite far backwards this summer. If I was a Torino fan, I'd be really disappointed. But I look at the number of teams down the bottom. There's so many weaker teams.
Yes, there is, but so is there with Sassuolo too.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I guess there's always the manager angle, but I think
Paolo Vanoli makes
the issue is that last season there was about. I think I remember there was about 8 teams that got under 40 points in Serie A last season. 40 points is generally seen as the magic mark to avoid relegation in any league that's a 20-team league. And there were 4 teams that really had relegation numbers last season, and it was just a case of which teams managed to do the least bad out of all of them, managed to stay up. And there's so many of those teams still, in my opinion, this season that are going to be under 40 points. And I look at Torino and I think they've got to be better than those teams, especially with... Zapata and Sanabria, I still think there's enough goals there to keep them up. But then again, I said last season that Sassuolo had enough goals in Berardi and Loriente, and then they didn't stay up. So you can't underestimate the importance of a coach. And
that's exactly what I'm worried, and that they scare me. Torino really, really scares me for this particular reason, and the same reason that I'm also really worried about Udinese, because they barely survived last season.
Well, they've got a certain Alexis Sanchez maybe coming back, so that would be fantastic.
Well, that's just Calcio. That's Christmas Day for Calcio romantics. I mean, him returning back to with next to Lorenzo Lucca, you got Tovan there, and if Samardzic stays, Lovric, if he can return from his injury, who we interviewed, and Biol, who's been chased by everyone.
He was brilliant in the Euros. Yeah,
he was really good in the Euros. But no, I think they've got decent players. I just don't know what to make of this coaching appointment.
Well, we will see. Yeah, no, I agree. He's complete unknown. Let's move on to Capocannoniere. I mean, I have to go for Lautaro Martinez again because I think he will score a lot of goals, but 2, because I'm looking at the other potential contenders, and I just can't make the argument for them scoring more. Osimhen, he's going to leave. Otherwise, I would have potentially put him. Dovbyk, I mean, it's hard to say. Morata, I don't think certainly won't score enough goals. Vlahovic, I mean, he needs to improve massively. And Motta teams don't generally score or create loads and loads of chances. So I can't argue against Lautaro.
Lautaro, Leao, Kvara. I think it's going to be one of those three. I think both Kvara and Leao are going to find themselves in more goal-scoring positions, because if Antonio Conte stays, that means Romelu Lukaku will come, and Romelu Lukaku, albeit he's not as quick as he once was, he's not as aggressive as he once was in terms of attacking space and acceleration and all that, but what he still does, by far the best in the world, that is to be the hold-up guy, playing with his back against the goal. Nobody comes near him, and he's going to play off Kvara into space in his system, in that system. And so for me, Kvara is going to really enjoy it. Same thing there. Morata is going to put Leao into all sorts of goal-scoring positions. I think it's one of those three: Kvara, Leao, or Lautaro.
Yeah. Player of the season, I'm going to, just to be different, because I don't want to go all Inter. I'm going to go for Kvara. I think he will have a bit of a rebound season this season. He's going to be playing once a week. He's going to be getting into more goal-scoring areas, which probably strengthens your argument that he could potentially be a challenger. I again, I'm trying to pick a player that will light up the games for us. We don't have many of these, as we complain all the time. We don't have many of these players that are individuals, and he's definitely one of the few in all of football, in all of Europe, really, that can do the individual magic. And so I'm going to go for Kvara.
I have Kvara or Leao or Lautaro, and for the same reason as before. But I also want to. Nicolo Barella, I think, is going to take much more responsibility at Inter in the attacking phase and in the build more than he does in the defensive phase this season. And I think by virtue of him doing that, that will free up him to score more goals, make more assists, and cement his position as the best midfielder in all of Serie A. I think last season it was Çalhanoğlu, but I think this season it's going to be Barella, and I think Barella is going to have to. I expect to see more from Barella this season going forward than we've done perhaps last season.
Okay, right. I was going to go for breakout star, best transfer, and worst transfer, but we'll do that in due course, because we still have.
We can do the breakout stars.
Yeah, we can do that because we've got a separate segment on there. So I'll ask you for one when we go through the breakout stars, because we're 1 hour and 22 minutes into the show, and we still have quite a lot to get through on here. As always, we don't know when to stop talking. So let's do 5 new signings to watch this season. Everybody loves the transfer market, the mercato. So I've picked out 5 names. One of them hasn't actually signed yet.
That's you wishing it into existence.
Yes, I'm wishing it. Yeah, I'm manifesting it. Alvaro Morata, number 1 for Milan. Brilliant Euros. Of course, won it. Very underrated player for me. He, like you said, makes players around him better, experienced. The question mark is, will he bring the goals needed for number 9? But he will probably make the players around him score more goals. But the big question for you, Nima, is for me that I want to ask you is: will Milan regret signing him instead of Joshua Zirkzee, who was their initial first choice, number 9?
Oh, that's an interesting question. They're completely different players. I think regret in the sense financially, yes, they can start regretting that now, because Zirkzee they would have been able to sell for 100 million. They're not going to get anything back from Morata. So, but whether or not they will regret in terms of what he delivers on the pitch, I'm not entirely sure, because I think Morata is such an interesting player and such an intelligent player, and I think it depends on how much he's able to get Pulisic and Leao to score, and of course Tijani Reinders, who I think is going to benefit greatly as well from Morata. I think both Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Reinders are going to benefit from Morata because of his movement and link-up play. So I don't think they're going to regret that way, because I think he's going to be very important for them. I think he's going to be a very good signing for them. But financially, absolutely, because there's no resale value in Morata. Whilst Zirkzee, there's lots of resale value.
For sure. Okay, player number 2, who hasn't signed yet at the time of recording, but I'm expecting him to.
No, you're wishing he will.
Two Coop miners for Juventus. For me, he was the best centre midfielder in Italy last season after Çalhanoğlu. He's tactically the most adaptable midfielder in Serie A, even more so than Barella, in my opinion, because he can play as an attacking midfielder, which is where Motta wants to play him as the number 10. But he can play as a defensive midfielder, as the regista. He can play as a mezzala. He can even play as a centre-back as well and build the play from there. I mean, he's so complete tactically. And I think he is key to this Motta's 4-2-3-1 working. 15 goals, 7 assists. I mean, the numbers are amazing, as well as being a great player. I think he's the player that can move the needle for Juventus, isn't he, Nima?
No, he is if he signs. But I'm starting to feel that he won't end up signing for Juve. And I feel that the more this drags on, I think it's less and less likely that he does. But I've kind of gone with a similar thing, that one player that hasn't been done yet, which I think will be done. I think Romelu Lukaku will end up at Napoli, and I think he will be incredibly important for Napoli's season, finishing in the top 2 and potentially winning the Scudetto. Not because of the goals he'll score, but because of the fact that he is his ability to hold up the ball and play off Raspadori, Kvaratskhelia, and putting them in Conte's Calcio Verticale system. He's going to be incredibly important, and he's going to help. That's going to win them lots of points. I think he'll score his 10-15 goals, but I think tactically he's going to be imperative for Napoli, because I'm certain he will join Napoli.
Yeah, definitely a signing to watch. There's no doubt about it. Same with Nicola Zaniolo, and we're not saying these players are going to be great signings, by the way. We're saying that these are signings to watch for many different reasons. And Zaniolo is, someone that was, as we said before, he was a generational player when he burst onto the scene with Roma as a teenager. Then two ACLs destroyed his career. He's not been the same player since. He had a terrible season with Aston Villa last season. Great story, and that he asked Atalanta to sign him, and they did. He went to Atalanta. I mean, that's just
via Marco Borriello, which I also think is absolutely brilliant, because Borriello it's just of course Zaniolo and Borriello are friends. Like, of course they are.
Yeah, probably part of the problem with part of the, well, depends how you look at it. From a footballing point of view, part of the problem. From a in terms of socializing, I mean, Borriello.
I'm sure they've had lots of fun in Ibiza.
Oh yeah. I mean, along with like
Borriello loves to talk about him and his mate,
and Nicola Berti and these guys.
But especially Borriello loves talking about his friends from Ibiza. I mean, he went to Ibiza because his friends were there towards the end of his career.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, the question here is, look, Atalanta have resurrected so many players in recent years. I mean, last season they resurrected the Ketelaere, and until what's just happened, Scamacca. Can they resurrect Zaniolo, or is that one miracle too big for Atalanta to resurrect him?
If Gasperini resurrects Zaniolo, they should probably build a statue of him. Like, it would be one of the greatest miracles in terms of player development that we've ever seen. I'm not counting on it, and that's why I don't have him on my on my 5 signings to watch. I've got Alessandro Buongiorno. I think Alessandro Buongiorno in 12 months, between 6 to 9 months time, 10 months time, we'll be talking about Alessandro Buongiorno as one of the best central defenders in the world. And it's going to all be down to Antonio Conte getting the best out of him and him being able to improve and take that step. I think he's going to be an absolute revelation.
Yeah, I think he's a guarantee in Conte's system in a back three. Matteo Sule, definitely one to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Landmark signing of the summer for Roma.
Absolutely.
Juventus didn't want to sell him. I can tell you that. I know that. Motta wanted to keep him. Motta really likes him. He had the best dribbling numbers for most of last season at Serie A, at Frosinone, despite being at Frosinone in Serie A. Can he raise a level with Roma? Can he combine tactically with Dybala? That's going to be the key, how they fit him and Dybala in. I mean, Dybala's always a tactical problem He's always a formational problem. Dybala. I think he will start at right wing. Sule, I would imagine. He's a very, very exciting signing, and I'm very much looking forward to him. And my final one I've got on here is Raphael Varane, Nima, because I think that's just an incredible coup for Como and Serie A. I mean, he's a Real Madrid, and he's a legend. He's one of the greatest defenders in modern times. Real Madrid, France, won everything. He's still only 31. The question is, does he pave the way for more signings for Como? You know, Cesc Fabregas is the manager. He's a legend as well. Richest owners in Serie A. You know, is it just a fad, or is it, you know, is this something that does he pave the way for more of these kind of signings? So that's going to be interesting. But the big question mark for me is, you know, is he going to be fit? You know, we know he's got a dodgy knee and he's been very injury prone in the last few years. That's the big question mark, because if he stays fit, I mean, it's going to be fantastic to watch him in Serie A.
Look, between Rafael Varane and Matthias Sola, I've got them on my 5 signings to watch too, but I've got nothing more to add other than you said. I just want to add Piotr Zielinski. I think he's very underrated. I think in the Inzaghi system, he can be very lethal. So I think he's also one I'm looking out for as well. So yeah. But those are my 6, kind of, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've got plenty of players to look out for. Now I want to look at possible breakout stars to watch this season. So these are players that are more unknown, players that are not established, a little bit more unheralded. I mean, last season we had quite a few real breakout stars who kind of came out of nowhere. We had Zirkzee, who was a bit of a laughing stock, let's be honest. This time last year, he was seen as a bit of a joke, Zirkzee. So it's incredible. Riccardo Calafiori, who was seen as somebody that, having also done his ACL, there's another Italian player that done his ACL, another Roma player. Roma is like the elephant's graveyard for ACLs, isn't it? I mean, Calafiori did his ACL, and then Matthias Sule was also a breakout star, because again, not anybody expected Sule to reach those levels. I didn't, having watched a lot of him at Juventus. I didn't think he had that in him to have the season, well, the first half of the season anyway, that he had. So the question is, who will explode this season? This is always very, very difficult, and you're always on a hide into nothing, because this can always explode in your face. But I've got 3. The first I've got is Dan N'Doye for Bologna. Now, if Thiago Motta was still at Bologna, I would have said this confidently, that I think he could have really broken out this season. Now that there's a new manager, this is one which is a little harder to say whether he can go on to the next level. But he's a very young winger. He had a decent first season for Bologna. He was important for the team in the way that he worked hard, the way he pressed, the way that he chased back. But his goals and assist numbers and his final ball, his final product, were actually a little bit disappointing, to be honest, and that is his weakness. But you can see that he has the raw qualities. He's got lightning pace. He can dribble, beat his man. He should be scoring and assisting a lot more than he did for Bologna last season. And I think at the Euros, he showed just what he can do when it all comes together. He scored against Germany. He destroyed Germany and Italy in those 2 games against 2 big teams. And he's quite tactically quite flexible as well. He can play on the right, he can play on the left, he even can play in the middle. He's a real live wire of a player, and he's wanted by bigger clubs. I mean, I saw that Inter were looking at him early in the summer, and also some Premier League teams as well. So I think there's potential. Let's say the raw qualities are there, that with the right manager, right system, if it all comes together, he could be a potential breakout, I would say.
I 100% agree with that, but I don't have him on my list. I've got Fabiano Parisi, who finally gets to play as a wing back, and he gets to play at Fiorentina under a coach who's good at developing young players. And I have so many expectations for Parisi. He's a dribbler. He's good at crossing. Good, decent shooter. No, I think he's going to be an absolute full breakout this season.
I hope so, because I think he has the raw qualities. He's got blistering pace.
Check out our profile deep dive we did on him a while ago.
Quite a while back now, yeah.
Yeah, on our YouTube page for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think he has the raw qualities, and he made a bad career choice moving to Fiorentina last season. He shouldn't have gone there when there was a player already in his position. But let's hope that he gets that chance this season. My second player I've got here is Marco Brescianini, who currently is actually playing for a Serie B club. He's still at Frosinone, who got relegated. He's a former Milan youth player, actually, midfielder. And he really improved last season under Di Francesco, which is one of the things that Di Francesco is very good at. He's very good at improving players. He's got a really, really excellent left foot, great shot, physical qualities. He's a goal threat. I think he scored 4 or 5 goals last season. He's wanted by most of the big clubs, actually, in Serie A. Atalanta, Juventus, Napoli have been the favourites to sign him. We'll see if they actually sign him. I like him. He's just got something about him that I like. So Brescianini, if he joins the right club, he's one that I'm hoping, also for Italy's sake, that he can break out.
I don't have him, but I agree with everything he said. I've got another Fiorentina player who we've also done a profile deep dive on a little while back. It's Michael Kayode. I think this kid is the future of Italy national team on the right side. I just absolutely love everything about him. I think he's so mature for his age. I think he's got pretty much every single quality you need to be a good fullback. My only question is, of course, now Fiorentina are going to play with wing backs. Dodo is back. It really annoys me. I really hope Kayode is either loaned out or sold, because I really think he's going to be a monster down that right wing.
Yeah, he's got all the physical qualities, the raw qualities again. Technically, I think he needs to improve a little bit, but he let's hope he doesn't rot on the bench. This season. Let's really pray on that. Talking about Italian youngsters, my final breakout star, I'm hoping, this is more from hope rather than expectation, is Mattia Liberali. He's 17 years old. He's an attacking midfielder. He's a fantasista. And along with Kamada, he is the most exciting teenage talent that Italy has. Both of those players from Milan, of course. He has been labelled the Italian Phil Foden by Milan legend Alessandro Costacurta. He was also called a football genius on our pod when we did a special interview with the Italy under-17 match analyst about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, Andrea Loiacono called him a footballing genius. He's had a wonderful pre-season as well. I think he's going to be, it would be lovely if he could have that, could have a breakout season under Fonseca. And from what I've understood, Fonseca is going to use him both training with the first team and with the...
That's what he said. He says he's going to use him to play for both teams. He doesn't want to loan him out. Apparently some Serie B teams wanted to loan him. And Fonseca says, no, I want
him under my eyes.
He'll combine between the Milan Futuro and the first team. So let's hope he gets plenty of time in the first team, because in pre-season, what I've seen him at Milan against Real Madrid, he got the assist against Real Madrid for Chukwueze's winner in that pre-season win. He got a brilliant nutmeg in that game as well. He's so good on the ball, so good in tight spaces, and he of course he was a key member of the Italy under-17 European champions this summer. And just look at the goal he scored against England. Wow, the close ball control and dribbling. So yeah, let's hope that Liberali can break out again for Italy's sake.
I've got another player as a potential breakout star. Aside from Jesper Karlsson at Bologna, who, if he stays, I think under Italiano can do some fantastic things. It's Ali Yassim at Como. This 20-year-old Iraqi international was the top goal scorer of the Asian Cup under-23 this past summer. Made his debut as a 14-year-old in the Iraqi top flight. He's a very exciting player, and he could be quite the attraction in the Serie A. He's only 20 years old, as I said, and he could be a really, really interesting one to watch out for.
Yeah, it's definitely one to watch for sure. The coaches. Now, one of the biggest talking points in Serie A this season is there has been a coaching revolution.
Yeah.
I mean, listen to this. 14 new coaches in Serie A this season.
Insane.
That is absolutely insane. The only teams who have the same manager are Inter, Atalanta, Roma, Genoa, Lecce, and Parma. And Parma, of course, came up from Serie B. So only 5 coaches that were in Serie A last
Just
season.
a comment before we go to the ones that have made changes. Inzaghi staying at Inter, of course, Atalanta, Giampiero Gasperini, De Rossi, Roma, not much to say there. But the other 3, especially 2 of them, are really interesting. Fabio Pecchia at Parma and Alberto Gilardino at Genoa. I think Gilardino is one of those coaches who's going to be coaching a top team pretty soon. Pecchia is one that I've been waiting to see for him to grow. And Luca Gotti did an absolutely brilliant job at Lecce. So those are really interesting coaches that have all stayed. It's going to be interesting to see what Fabio Pecchia can do in the Serie A.
Yeah, for sure. Let's run down the new coaches, and we're going to have to be really quick on this because we are going on for so long here. Marco Baroni for Igor Tudor at Lazio. As we said, transitional season, going to be very, very difficult for Baroni, isn't it?
I think he's going to do well. They're going to be stable, but they're not going to be too exciting. I think 7th. The question for me is who's going to score the goals?
I think one season Baroni, transitional season, then when they're ready to try and make that step up and become what Lazio really are again, I think they'll replace him. Unfortunately, that's what I see. I think Lotito's appointed him because he knows it's going to be a difficult season and he wants to wait before appointing a bigger coach. Bologna, Vincenzo Italiano for Thiago Motta. We discussed this already. A good appointment for Bologna, but obviously losing all those players is going to be very, very difficult for Italiano.
I wanted Italiano at Bologna even before Mihailovic was appointed at Bologna because I think this is the right place for him to be, and they've got the right makeup of players in terms of young players. That is perfect for him. Yeah,
and I think his foot was similar enough to Motta that it should be too difficult for the players to adapt to his football. Fiorentina, Raffaele Palladino for Italiano. We've discussed a little bit about Palladino. You said already, good with young players, Italian players as well. So I think this is a big season for Palladino because he burst onto the scene with Monza so well in his first season. Then second season kind of stagnated a little bit. So this is a big season to see just how far his career can go, I think, for Palladino.
Yeah, I've nothing more to add to that really. Yeah. It's going to be. I just hope that Coyote and Parisi have a great development under him.
Monza though, Palladino replaced at Monza by Alessandro Nesta. This is a bit of a gamble, isn't it? This is a bit of a Galliani appointing someone that he knows. The kind of.
This is Galliani appointing Clarence Seedorf at Milan. That's how I feel. But then again, we've waited to see if Alessandro Nesta can be a great coach, and Monza isn't exactly the most difficult piazza with the most pressure to try.
Yeah, it's not the most demanding from the fans.
No, it's going to be interesting to see what he can do.
Yeah. I for one really hope that he does well because I've met him and he's just the most amazing person. He's such a great guy, and it would be fantastic. He's one of football's good guys. Let me put it that way. He's one of football's good guys, and you want good people to do well, but it's going to be difficult. Napoli, of course, Conte for Francesco Calzone, and we've discussed a lot about Conte already, so we don't really need to discuss anymore. Torino, Paolo Vanoli for Ivan Juric. Again, we discussed.
I think Vanoli's going to is a candidate for one of the first coaches to lose his job this season in the Serie A.
Yeah, you've expressed your reservations there on Vanoli. Udinese we have to say, complete unknown here.
I don't know.
For Cannavaro. We're surprising that Cannavaro didn't keep his job, really, wasn't it? After he saved Udinese, he had a really good record actually.
He did.
Udinese. If you look at his actual stats, I think the only game he lost was
Roma.
The Roma game, which wasn't even a game, was it?
Yeah.
Cagliari. Cagliari have got one survival specialist for another, Davide Nicola for Claudio Ranieri.
I mean,
Nicola is a
how gritty aren't Cagliari going to be with Davide Nicola?
I know.
Like, it's just,
but you know
I'm
what? I
loving
won't
it.
rule out that Ranieri comes back at some point. Now, even though
Oh,
he says he's
I
retired,
wouldn't.
I wouldn't be surprised if he comes. Like
Yeah,
they're in relegation trouble with like
but Davide
10 games
Nicola,
to go.
yeah, me too. And somehow, I mean, Davide Nicola just at Cagliari is just going to be it's for those of us who love the relegation scraps. This is brilliant.
It really is. Thiago Motta for Max Allegri. Yeah, I mean, I think as we said before, is one of the most exciting young coaches in Europe. But he's now coaching a big team. This is his first big team, so it is a step up for Motta. But I think he's pragmatic enough that he's not. He's an ideologue in a way. He's a system manager. He has his ideas, but I think he does still have that, defensive. He's shown that defensive solidity as well as being a coach that wants to control the game. So I think that for that reason, I'm not as worried about him as maybe you would have had a worry with some other coaches. But he has got a job on his hand because it's a revolution at Juventus, and it's going to be very, very difficult with so many new players. Very, very hard for him, but it's definitely more optimism now for Juventus fans. They can hope again with Motta. Milan, Fonseca for Pioli, not an appointment that many Milan fans wanted, let's be honest. But I think he's already kind of won them over, hasn't he, in pre-season? So there's a little bit more excitement among Milan fans. But it was the right time to move on from Pioli. I think we both agree there. Now it's up to Fonseca to prove that he's was the right appointment. Verona, Nima, Paolo Zanetti for Marco Baroni. What do you think of this one?
I think we're talking another coach who's going to lose his job very quickly. Paolo Zanetti at Verona makes no sense to me. He's not that's not what Verona are. And if they're going to hemorrhage goals, I wonder if he doesn't get sacked soon.
Yeah. Venezia, Di Francesco for Paolo Vanoli. I mean, this guy, he keeps getting these jobs, doesn't he?
I don't understand that. They're going to get relegated and he's going to get them relegated, and I don't understand it. I really don't understand. He's
going to produce lots of top players
well, there's going to be goals. Players. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be goals for sure.
So we shouldn't complain. We shouldn't complain too much as neutrals. Empoli, Roberto D'Aversa for Davide Nicola. Again, it's another one that's you'd worry a little bit for D'Aversa if he's going to last till Christmas.
Yeah, no. D'Aversa, I'm more confident about than I am about Di Francesco, Zanetti, Vanoli, and these guys. But yeah, I do. When does you talked about if Ranieri comes back? Well, when does Andrea Zoli come back at Empoli? Yeah. But I think the D'Aversa will be fine. I think he'll be all right.
Finally, Como, Cesc Fabregas for Usain Roberts. Fabregas got his coaching badges, as that was always the plan, that he would be the coach. I mean, again, bit of an unknown quantity. We know he was an incredible player. I've seen him doing punditry, and he's got a fantastic football brain. You can tell the way he talks, his understanding of the game is brilliant. Can he get those ideas across? There's more to management than just understanding football, having good ideas. You've got to be able to get those ideas across, to be able to coach, to be on the training ground, to be able to motivate, to be able to manage, to all of these things. There's so much that you have to do in front of the media, everything. So again, complete unknown with Fabregas how he's going to do. Okay, right. Penultimate segment now. The kits, Serie A kits. We know that there's very few countries or leagues that do as many beautiful kits as Serie A does, but they're not all beautiful. Some of them are also pretty bad as well, and then there's no difference to that this season. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pick one kit that I love and one kit that I hate, and Nima is going to do the same. So let's start off with the kits that we love. I'll go first. I am going to pick for the kit that I love the most. I'm going for Bologna's away kit, which should be coming on your screen now, and I just love that. It's the simplicity of it. I love the red and black. Was it blue? Dark blue that goes across horizontally on the kit. Reminds me of some of the away kits in the kind of like the early to mid 90s in Serie A. I remember Genoa and Milan used to have a kit like this in the when Genoa beat Liverpool in the UEFA Cup back in the early 90s. I think they had an away kit that was similar to this. I love this kit. Beautiful kit. So that's my favorite kit.
Yeah, I can't choose between Fiorentina and Genoa's home kits. Classic kits, Kappa, beautiful. Genoa's home kit is just, it's vintage, old school. It's absolutely stunning. Same with Fiorentina, beautiful purple color. Not much to say. Nah, look, it's, to me, those two, and of course it's Kappa that done them both. The best kit maker in the world, and it's not even close.
The turn of the 21st century, was their peak years.
Oh yeah, but they're still the best. Like,
they're still great. Yeah.
I don't think anyone does shirts like Kappa. They're by far the best. It's just doesn't matter who.
The reason why I'm laughing now is because I've just realised that we've both gone for the same team with our worst kits. Oh my god!
Whoever did that should be locked up.
Well,
they should be in prison. It's a crime. Roma have one of the most beautiful colours, and it's like to create a beautiful Roma shirt is like shooting fish in a barrel. And somehow they've managed to shoot themselves in the face.
I mean,
this is so ugly.
Well, first of all, let's go with mine. I'm going with the Roma home shirt as my worst kit.
Three of them are awful.
Of the Serie A season. I mean, this is, as you can see on the screen, this is just disgusting. I mean,
what have they done with it?
But number one, it's not the Roma color. It's too faded. It's too faded. The lines, the vertical lines that go down the shirt are horrific. I mean, awful. I mean, what are you doing lines on a Roma shirt? Roma home shirt should not have lines going through it. They're not a stripe team. They're not Juventus. I know the lines are very thin, but they're not Juventus. They're not Inter. They're not Milan. Roma home kit should not have stripes on it. I mean, that's horrific as well, and it's just awful. It's just horrible. It's just the whole design is everything about it is horrible.
The song goes, "Gialla come il sole, rosso come core mio." As yellow as the sun, as red as my blood. If that is the color of your red, you need to rush to an emergency room. It is the ugliest red I've ever seen, and it's not yellow. It looks brown. They've ruined it. It looks.
Well, it's not even blood red. It looks like blood that's like been a few days old. You know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If your blood looks like that, rush to the emergency room. You have an infection. So a doctor should look at you. It's something wrong.
Okay,
with
it. Can you just describe the away kit? It should be coming up on your screen now.
It's horrible. It is. It's all ugly.
Well, I'm looking at it now. I mean, what is that? It's kind of white with. It's like someone splashed paint over it, or splashed like a fruit drink, like a strawberry fruit drink over the shirt. I mean.
It looks like it looks like a 6-year-old was eating food and had an accident.
Yeah.
And then
or
the third
a 6-year-old's got a paint palette and is just throwing paint at a wall.
And then you've got the third kit that looks like Barcelona's from mid-90s.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, it does, doesn't it?
It looks like the Barcelona kit from the mid-90s.
It does.
The ugly ones.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You know, it's truly ugly. They have ruined it. What have they done? What have they done? The only thing I like about these things is that they've got different logos for each one, and they've got like old, the home team has got the modern logo, the away team has got the classic, like an older logo, and the third one even older than that. That's the only thing that I like about it. The rest is an abomination and a crime against Roma and Calcio. What in God's name have Adidas been thinking here?
Yeah, it's awful. It's absolutely awful, but it doesn't surprise me because I don't know if this guy has had anything to do with it. But do you remember that story a few weeks ago of the Roma commercial chief?
Oh yeah,
who got suspended because
the Lazio shirt.
He got suspended because he designed some was it a Roma training shirt?
Yeah, it was a training kit.
Lazio in the light blue, sky blue of Lazio.
Yeah.
He got suspended. So I'm thinking that the same guy that did that must have designed.
I think he was involved. I don't think he designed it because it's an Adidas design, but I think he's kind of been involved in the decision making. Well, that's exactly it. I think that's it. They've been involved in the decision making process, and it's absolutely horrible.
But having said that, though, I think that Lazio shirt would have been nicer. I think it would have been nicer than these abominations. I mean, they are
an abomination. They are an absolute abomination.
They're actually up there with the worst kits I've ever seen.
Me too. In history. It's genuinely the ugliest kits.
I'm just thinking off the top of my head, worst kits ever. Those of you that are watching and listening, what are your worst kits?
Yeah, let us know in the comments on YouTube.
I'm thinking Man United had a grey kit in the 1990s. Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was awful. Awful.
Yeah, let us know if you're on YouTube. Let us know in the comments the ugliest shirts that you can remember with links. Let's have an ugly off in terms of horrible shirts. I think these three Roma shirts are the ugliest shirts I've seen, together with Inter Sprite third kit a few years ago. That was genuinely an eyesore. Juventus Hello Kitty one was ugly as hell. There's been quite a few.
Juventus have had some bad ones, but I mean, generally, it's hard to go wrong with Italian kits. They're so beautiful. They're natural, traditional colors and designs. You can't. It's really difficult to mess things up. It's really, really difficult. Yeah. Somehow they have. Okay, right. To finish off, I think everybody's going to love this. We've saved the best till last here. So we are going to finish off with a funny segment. 10 things to expect in Serie A. I mean, I've got 10 on here. I don't know, Nima, whether you've added some more. If you have, you can.
I think I've got one at the end. I think these are all 10.
All right, we'll have yours as a bonus at the end. Right, I'm going to read out each one, and then we can have a little bit of fun with it. So these are 10 things that are exaggerated, but actually maybe not that exaggerated, and actually there's very, very real chance.
No, let's put it this way: this could actually happen. Some of these could actually happen.
Yes. They could. So these are 10 things to expect in Serie A this season. 10 crazy, funny things to happen.
That can only happen. It's like the Serie Ass of the week that hasn't happened yet, but could happen in the next.
Could and probably will happen.
Yeah, yes. Exactly.
So let's start off with number one, right? Antonio Conte complains about Napoli's transfer market and has a fist fight with Aurelio De Laurentiis by the end of August. I mean, this has maybe already happened, hasn't it?
I was going to say, there's talk of him resigning in disgust if he doesn't get his players.
I mean, it's a guarantee, isn't it?
That's going to end badly.
Antonio Conte complaining about the Mercato. I mean, it's going to happen. Number two, Max Allegri fans call for Allegri to replace Thiago Motta after Juventus lose their first game of the season.
That's kind of already happened as when Juve lost to Nuremberg, didn't it? Like in the
yes.
So we've already done that. But
they're in the right place, aren't they? Everybody calls Allegri a terrorist. I mean, Nuremberg trials. I mean,
Jesus.
Maybe took that a little bit far, but okay. Number three. AC Milan ban all Italians from playing.
Oh, God. Oh, dear.
I'm sure you all love the image that we've just flashed up there on the screen of Nigel Farage. But, I mean, it has been discussed a lot. There is a serious side to this, that there are probably almost certainly going to be no Italians in the starting 11 for Milan this season. Obviously, the coach isn't Italian either, as well. I mean, from the Italian national team point of view, this is a problem, isn't it?
It's not good when the top three, when you have that little for
well, Inter okay. To be fair, Inter okay.
But Inter are
Juventus,
fine, but Juve and Milan are not, and that's a problem.
No. Yeah, absolutely. Number 4, we have to have a Prem face in here, a Prem face point. Inter play Aston Villa in the Champions League. The English media say that not a single Inter player would get in the Aston Villa team, and that Aston Villa would win the Serie A.
Yeah, that's. I'm surprised that hasn't happened already. That's
a guarantee.
That's totally going to happen. That's completely going to happen.
Bet your house on that happening. Point number 5: Serie A teams get robbed in Europe. Anthony Taylor, there you go.
Anti-Italian discrimination that you love so much.
Yeah. Number 6: the stadium projects of Milan, Inter, Roma, and Fiorentina all collapse. Chances of that, Nima?
Yeah, that could happen. That can absolutely happen. Fiorentina, Inter, Milan, Inter, I think, as I've said, I think they're going to stay at the San Siro. They're going to refurbish it. Roma, I'm a little bit, I've caught the hype bug that Andrea Di Carlo had when we did the interview yesterday. Fiorentina, I think now is a bigger chance of that happening because now everyone's on board. They're all friends now. So it's a shit show. It's an absolute shit show. Yeah.
Fiorentina are actually trying to collapse their own stadium, aren't they? I think the new stadium at the moment. So it's not even the political or the bureaucracy that stops it happening. Number 7. This is a guarantee, 100% guarantee. A Serie A anti-racism campaign goes all wrong as players come out for their matches in blackface.
Oh dear. I mean,
if it's not blackface, it's going to be something else.
It's going to be something really inappropriate. It's going to be something really, really inappropriate. Like their anti-gypsy campaign, like their anti-racism.
What was the anti? I was trying to remember.
Don't call me gypsy. That was the campaign, the hashtag or something.
Yeah, let's hope they don't do that for the anti-racism campaign.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Don't call me something else.
Yeah. Horrible.
Which
horrible.
Again, I would not put that past them.
I would not put that past them either.
Okay. Point number 8. This isn't really a funny one, but it's a guarantee, unfortunately. At least 3 more young Italian stars tear their ACL, and everyone just calls it bad luck and coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, we've already said everything there is to be said about that, to be honest. It's bad luck, but it's also down to the way that they train, being archaic. It's also down to the number of games, not too many games for not enough players. There's preparation, all of the above. It's all of the above.
Okay. Number 9. Torino president Urbano Cairo invites Prince Andrew, R. Kelly, and Woody Allen to watch a Torino game.
For no reason other than they are famous and he likes famous people. Yes, he's done that in the past, although Kevin Spacey was cleared of all charges, but he wasn't at the time, and it was really inappropriate and unnecessary. But again, and there was no need for it. It was so random, very random.
Out of nowhere. Point number 10. Serie A announce a partnership with American influencer iShowSpeed. A statement from the Liga Calcio read, iShowSpeed is going to save us.
He's going to be involved, or they've already had these other idiots with the guy Naked Chef or whatever. It's going to be something really stupid.
Well, they've had iShowSpeed. Milan had him. Had him doing some move. First one to move his gay game.
With
Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
It's the most childish thing.
This seems to be the new commercial tactics from Serie A and from Italian clubs. hire influencers. That's it. That's their new commercial policy.
Pay them ridiculous amounts of money.
It's embarrassing
for a flash in a pan, no actual growth whatsoever. It just gives you a little likes and views on one video, and then that's it. That's it.
Yeah, who are not even your not even
your target audience. Yeah, no. exactly.
And this is what we're talking about. It's oh god.
No idea what they're doing. No structure. Just throw shit at a wall and hope something sticks.
Yeah,
that's all they do. And of course, I've got my final one, and that's Spalletti to be sacked by the FIGC after Italy fail in the Nations League, and the elections are held in November, and Allegri's going to be replacing him, and you're going to be hunger striking outside of the Italian embassy in London.
Oh my gosh! You know what? I don't think our hunger strike. I think.
Go do a. What do you call it? Harakiri in front, like ritual, in front of the,
or like the Buddhists during the Vietnam War, like
self-immolate,
immolate myself,
self-immolate in front of the Italian embassy, because Max Allegri takes over, and he's going to probably say, as if that went bad, Allegri is going to say something Allegri-esque to piss you off even more, just to add that bit of salt to injury about, I don't know, youngsters need to prove themselves.
Yeah, Mattia Liberali needs to do serve his apprenticeship in Serie A. How are we going to get through a season without Max Allegri, Nima? How are we going to do it? How are you going to get through it? Actually,
I will get through it because I do expect Allegri to return to Italian football. I think he will. I actually think that there is a big chance he could take over the Italian national team. I just don't want to say it too much to you because it depresses you too much. But I actually think that can happen. I think Spalletti's days are numbered. And yeah.
Well, someone needs to find a striker. I mean, who the hell are we going to have as our striker? Thank God that the qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers, don't start till was it March?
March.
Or it might even be June if we somehow win our Nations League game. So it's the Nations League group. So at least that gives us a little bit more time to somehow find a striker or somewhere. So I don't know who the hell we're gonna play up front. Okay, well that is a very, very long preview show. We said it would be comprehensive.
It was.
It's over 2 hours long.
This is now the longest show we've ever done. Without a doubt.
It is. Yeah, mad. But thank you, Nima. Thank you, everyone, for listening and for watching. And the Serie A season, as I said, starts on Saturday, August 17th. As always, we will be covering the Serie A and everything Italian football related this season on the Italian Football Podcast. A minimum of 3 shows a week, including our free weekly show every Monday, our weekly Q&A every Tuesday, where we answer all the questions from our patrons, our weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more. To receive all of our content, then go to patreon.com/CIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. You can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. The link is in the description. Same price, same terms. We're also on YouTube, of course. For those of you that are watching the show, those of you that are listening, do subscribe to us on YouTube, because we are going to be producing more of these video episodes just for YouTube, like this one, as well as other content that will be on YouTube as well. So subscribe to us there. We are growing really fast. We have over 3,000 subscribers now, and we only really, to be honest, started doing this properly about a year ago on YouTube. So thank you to everyone that have subscribed already. For all of you that do listen on Spotify, Apple, and on iTunes podcast, we really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating and give us a follow on those platforms as well. It just means that we can do more content for you guys. So thank you, everyone.
And we'll also, we can reveal now that in starting September, we're going to start a subscription service on YouTube as well, which we offering the same things we do on Patreon, but to YouTube audience as well, so you can get the Q&A and all the other stuff as well on YouTube as well, for those of you who enjoy the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the new Serie A season. Do let us know in the comments what you expect from this Serie A season, who you think is going to win the Scudetto, who you think is going to be players to watch out for. You know, your best
Capocannoniere,
Capocannoniere, yeah. Any talking points?
MVP, and also the ugliest shirts. We need to see the ugliest shirts, and
Yeah,
also,
we do.
and also, add your own crazy things that you might think will happen this season.
Yes.
That we did as well. So just get involved, and remember to, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button and the bell.
I mean, the community that we're building is really great. It's really special, and I just find like some of the conversation, you know, in YouTube, the YouTube comments, but also, you know, on Patreon, we have a little community page that's quite new, isn't it? For Patreon, where a lot of our patrons who are basically our paid subscribers, you know, they chat and they start some really, really great topics, and it's fantastic, you know, to see, and we learn a lot from it as well. Like some of the questions that we had a fantastic question, didn't we, about the number of Italians in Serie A last week, you know, so
in the Serie A,
definitely keep up at that as well, because you add a lot to the conversation and to the show, and you know, I think it's great. So yeah, thank you everybody for that. We will see you. Well, depending on when you listen or watch this, we will see you next time. But enjoy the Serie A season. Ciao, ciao.